Anvil, Hammer, Hatchet podcast.
All right, welcome to episode 2. We're doing this. We're ready to do this for the second time with the full cast of characters.
The full ensemble. We've got Ross,
Here
the
I
boss,
am.
back.
It's good to be back, boys.
Welcome back, man.
Thank you.
Big Daddy Ross, the boss's boss, finally in the house.
I apologize for not being here before. Just feeling a little under the weather, but I'm here and I'm ready to rock tonight.
Yeah, now that you're okay, I mean, we were speculating a hangover, but I think now that you're okay, we can address the fact that it was just a case of 24-hour syphilis, and you're doing fine now. Nothing a little antibiotics and some creams and ointments
Nothing
can't
a
cure.
little penicillin can't fix.
So yeah, we're ready to do episode 2 with the full cast. Let's do this.
And we're in. All right. I think the first thing we should talk about, just because we had mentioned it last week, was we had made some errors.
There is the mea culpas, the mistakes and factual inaccuracies.
Some corrections need to be made.
Oh, yeah. And it was kind of ironic that part of the conversation last week was me talking about how everybody should be smarter and then saying things that made me sound like an idiot.
Well, me too.
So when I told everybody that they should be C, don't be A, don't be C, be A, I found it kind of funny that came back to bite me in the ass. So we're going to do a little section covering the inaccuracies that we had last week. So remember, everybody, from this point forward,
Don't be CBA.
No mistakes.
no mistakes. And of course, if we do have mistakes, we'll go back and correct them. So
Rectify the situation.
yeah, I mean, there were so many that I actually had to document them in a list. Let's see, what do we have? Number 1.
Let me guess. It's the 5150 misstep.
Oh, okay. Well, that could be number 1 for sure.
Yeah, so we were talking about the Van Halen album cover with the boy on the front smoking
Right,
cigarette.
we were talking about Sammy Hagar's first album and inaccurately stated that it was 5150. It was not. It was 1984.
Yes.
5150 was actually the album with Panama. I mean, that was with David Lee Roth. That was his, I believe, last album. Wow.
1984 was.
Oh, I thought Sammy Hagar was on 1984.
Are we already making missteps?
That's is this something we're going to have to apologize for again next week?
Someone should. Maybe everybody's Googling.
But it definitely wasn't 5150. Right. So that's one correction. Joe Satriani is not the guitarist
in Chickenfoot.
Is the guitarist for Chickenfoot.
Chickenfoot.
It is not Steve Vai.
No.
Well, we threw out both names, and of course, with a 50-50 chance of being wrong, guess which one we landed on. So, yeah.
Well, plus, too, those guys are sort of slightly interchangeable and synonymous just because they're guitar virtuosos.
Right.
Yeah.
They're both incredible
and
players.
And they both came up around the same time, and,
So, yeah, so that was one. This is one for you. You want to address the Glenn Frey situation?
Okay. So, I followed a rumor. What the fuck? You hear something, you're like, oh, that must be true. But it wasn't. So Glenn Frey did not die naked driving his car into a tree like I assumed.
No, he actually died of pneumonia. And it was complications from an illness.
It would have been such a better story if that was true.
It would have been a lot more.
It
would have been a lot more rock and roll.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think I even said I thought he was just sick.
You did say that. Yeah.
So yeah, there's that one. One that's very important to me. I want it to be stated and known clearly. I do not drink bourbon and Coke. I drink bourbon. I'm not going to ruin a perfect beverage with Coca-Cola. So,
to me, that's like bastardizing a martini with olive juice.
The dirty martini.
That's like you kill it.
Yeah,
I agree with you. Bourbon should just be bourbon. But Lemmy did drink bourbon and Coke.
Yeah. No, he drank bourbon. He drank Jack and Coke. So that night I did.
Jack's bourbon.
No, it's whiskey.
Isn't it the same thing?
No. It's like champagne and sparkling wine. It's regional.
Kentucky is bourbon.
Right.
Jack Daniels isn't from Kentucky, right?
Tennessee.
Tennessee whiskey.
Tennessee.
Pretty sure it even says
Tennessee.
that on all the T-shirts that you see that have.
No, it
that
does
have
say
the
Tennessee whiskey. Okay.
Yeah.
Which way they do sell it is a dry county, by the way. You are not allowed to buy Jack Daniels in the state where it makes. I think it's is it Lynchburg?
So is every one of their customers committing a crime when they place an order, or
I guess you have to jump the state line then.
Or you just go to the mountains and make your own still
Little
and do
mountain-
your own shit.
and
do.
okay, so the last one, last error that we need to correct is not it's a very minor one. But one is not the last song on side 2 of.
Jesus, this
And
is 2 in
Justice
a row
for
he's
All.
got me for.
And also, at this point, I bet a lot of people are like, side 2, the CDs only have one side.
Yeah, so
or there's
about
0
that-
sides on an MP3. If you try to find the track list, it doesn't even break it down into what sides
See,
they're
I
on.
had it on cassette.
So you were just listening to the whole thing backwards.
I guess. I don't know. It was,
Flip the
from
side.
what I remember, it was the last song on one of the sides.
Yeah. It
Based on
was the
a
last song
cassette,
on side 1.
not on a CD.
Gotcha.
So the last song on side 1 for you would have been Dyer's Eve,
Right.
which was actually the last song on the album.
Yeah, Dyer's Eve.
And maybe
That was the Cliff Burton song, right? Wasn't it? No. What
No.
was the Cliff Burton song on there that they used his bass track for? Like it was an older song that they put on Justice.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah.
I've never heard that.
It was one of those.
You would think you would be able to tell the difference because Newstead's barely. I heard an interesting story about that, or at least I thought it was interesting. For years, I've heard, as far as Metallica's how they treated Jason Newsted and his relationship with the band, that he was never felt like he was really accepted, and the big rumor was that they turned his bass tracks way down, and that's why that album sounds. It was
Thin.
yeah, and
Right.
a lot of people saw that as a sign of disrespect. I heard James Hetfield talking about, because they mixed that album themselves, and they were doing it either while they were on tour or right after they got done with the tour, and apparently their ears were just blown, and those
Yeah.
bass frequencies were just gone. So when they were mixing it, as far as they could tell, it sounded fine,
Right.
and the bass was there.
I have a tendency to lean more the other way. Like I think that they probably were like, even you can't even really hear Robert Trujillo that much in the new stuff. Like he is in the back. He's in the back. He is not up front.
See, the new album sounds like their old stuff. Like as far as the sound quality, it sounds like their first 3 albums.
Right.
Maybe
To
their
me,
newest one.
They
It sound like that, but that like Death Magnetic was. I thought it was thin on bass.
Well, I wonder how
Maybe
much.
that's because I'm a bass player. I don't know.
Right.
But I also wonder how much of that had to do with the engineers thinking, "Oh, that's what they want to sound like," because they had
Well, it
heard
depends who you're catering
they
to.
heard Justice and all that stuff where the bass was really low, and probably just assumed, "Oh, that's the sound they go for." I
Right.
mean, it's pure speculation, obviously. But anyway, I thought that was kind of an interesting twist on why Justice is there. There's such a low bass volume on that, is maybe their ears were just shot. I can see that
It's
on
probably
tour.
a combination.
Yeah, I'm
of
thinking
both.
it's a mix of the both between egos and the sound right
Well-
there.
Yeah, and that was the heyday of like the ego driven
Mm-hmm.
thing where everybody was kind of. And I know Jason, like I think the straw that broke the camel's back was when he started getting a side project together, and James was like,
What was the name of it again?
"Well, he's played with Echo Brain,
Echo Brain. That's what it was. Because his new thing is just called.
the Jason Newsted Project."
I think it's just called. I think it's called Newstead.
I think you're right.
But yeah, Echo Brain was the one that he, I guess, that caused a bit of a rift with, because he wanted a different creative outlet.
And James was feeling like, "No, you can't do.
Well, you
can't.
saw the documentary,
Yeah,
fairly
just recently,
right?
I just watched it a couple days ago again because it was on Netflix, and I'm like, all right, whatever, I'll see some old school heroes and watch their follies, basically.
Yeah, why not?
But that was during the Saint Anger album time, which after I watched the documentary, I was thinking to myself, man, that album really is shitty. It's a shitty album.
That I haven't really listened
Sonically
to it that much.
and content, just I mean, I think they did it for themselves. It was
Right.
more.
Did you see
Need the money.
Ross? Did you see that? Did you see the documentary? Have you seen Some Kind of Monster?
I have not yet.
Oh, okay. It's good. It's interesting. I would check it out.
Really? Okay.
It's an interesting watch.
What brought you to watch it? Well, I mean, how did you find it? How did you?
I watch any music documentary.
And it came out like over 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's. I haven't seen it probably in almost that long. But yeah, I mean, I've seen the Eagles one and the Rush one
I have seen
and
that
the
one.
Phil Collins one, or rather Genesis
Oh,
one.
have you seen
I watched the Rush one last night.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Nice.
it was good. It was good.
One I particularly liked was the Muscle Shoals documentary.
Yeah, that's a fantastic one.
I haven't
was
seen
a
that
good
one.
I'm pretty sure it's on Netflix. So
See, it's weird for me because like I like that kind of music if I'm watching it live or something,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't have a predilection to like just be like, oh, I want to listen to that.
It's a
you know what I
feeling.
mean?
It's a feeling.
but the documentaries are different because you're seeing the players behind the scenes.
Well, that's
and
the cool
yeah.
part. You get drawn into it,
Mhm.
and you know, like even Rush, I had no idea Rush had some actual cool stuff.
Oh, I'm
that
a
sounds
Yes,
horrible, but I'm
absolutely.
not a Rush fan. You know,
I'm a much bigger Rush fan after seeing that documentary for
Yeah.
sure. And that almost always happens to me is when I watch one of those docs is I become a bigger fan of the
Right.
artist it's about. The Muscle Shoals one is great. The Wrecking Crew one is fantastic.
That's one I have to see next. It's
yeah.
on top of my list.
And it's about the studio musicians in Los Angeles that played on all those classic
Oh, right.
records back in
Right,
the
right.
60s, I believe.
60s, yeah.
Pretty like the Wrecking Crew are the people you hear on the Beach Boys records, or at least on I'm pretty sure on Pet Sounds.
Extremely
And-
well practiced.
Yeah, and
studio
they
musicians.
played everything there, and as far as I know, the band had to learn all the songs so that they could go play them live,
Mhm.
which was probably challenging because they were trying to emulate some really talented musicians.
Oh yeah.
So
well, that's kind of like what Chuck Berry's been doing his whole life. Like he
Uh-huh.
doesn't have a band. He shows up in town. There's some backing band ready to play, and he just goes. Like you don't even know what key he's going to start in, what song he's going to start, but the band has got to be on.
is he the one who comes in right before the show, like right before they're supposed to go on, with a briefcase and a gun in his belt, and basically gets his money?
I've heard that he drives around in a
the
Cadillac.
keeps the
Cadillac?
briefcase on the stage, and then as soon as the show's over, he
He's
grabs the
out.
briefcase and walks.
Well, I mean, if you've been fucked around as much as that guy has in the business, I'd probably be doing the same thing.
Oh, sure. Especially like
They took
when
all
he,
of his rights.
when he first started out too. It was, I think being taken advantage of was just par for the course.
Oh no, yeah.
and
Not
a
to
lot,
mention the fact that he was a black. You know,
yeah, that's at that time. I'm sure there were
during the
there
rock
were,
and roll.
True.
But
early rock and
even
roll.
on the Chitlin circuit, it was just the promoters took advantage of. You know what I mean? I think that kind of happened across the board, and the guys that were starting out were still in that just happy to be here kind of phase,
Mhm.
and allowed themselves to take some really bad deals
Got walked all over.
just so
Just to
they
get to
just so
name
they
the
could
lights.
play,
Mhm.
just so they could play. So anyway, that drifted off conversationally a little bit.
Well,
but
another-
I just wanted to just wrap it up. Those were our corrections from last week.
Yes.
If you have other ones, if you've noticed any other errors or mistakes factually, just shoot us an email and we will make those corrections and apologize profusely for spreading misinformation.
AnvilHammerHatchet at gmail.com. You can reach us at.
Yeah, so if you notice, if you want to point out just how dumb we are, go ahead and shoot us
Please,
an email with
drop us a
corrections,
letter.
and we will make those corrections.
And it'll be mostly me making those missteps, but I'm good with that.
So I wanted to go around the table real quick and just introduce everybody. We've obviously brought up the fact that Big Daddy Ross, the boss's boss, is here.
It's good to be here.
So yeah, we've got him.
Thank you,
It's
thank
just
you.
nice to have him
Take a bow.
in.
Take a bow.
And
Please stop.
I am I'm Chris, and we've actually got another Chris in the studio. So to avoid confusion, we always refer to him as Army. So when we talk about Army, that is our third
Say hello,
co-host.
Chris Army Armstrong, I guess.
That's the voice of Army.
I get tagged with so many different nicknames over the years. I've been Hoyt for a long time. I've been Chonez since I was a child.
Chonez.
And Army. So, and depending on what group of people I'm hanging out with, they all address me differently. So.
Right. I've told Ross this before, but I'm horrible with names when I first meet people. So I usually have to associate something with that person so I can remember their names. A friend of ours named Keith in my head for a long time, he was Keith Richards because that was the way. I never called him that, but in my head, that's how I'm. Okay, that guy's Keith. You were Tex, just because I knew you had moved from Austin, so you were. And we have the same name, and it still took me a minute to remember. I'm awful with names, but yeah. So Chris, Tex, Ross. That is the Three Musketeers of this show.
You can call me Tex, I guess. I don't know.
That's
I don't give a fuck. Call me whatever.
Army's always stuck, so I feel like I'll be more comfortable calling you.
And
Army,
and if you refer to me as Chris, it's just the fatter Chris, because you don't have that extra pound like I do.
Good old Texas jalapenos and bacon. That's what we'll do for you.
Bacon. I just like bacon.
So yeah, that's your crazy cast of characters, I guess.
There we are.
And we will be bringing in people to do interviews with them. We have a fourth mic.
We do
position available that we're probably just going to have that be a revolving door of people,
absolutely.
Whether they're in here or whether they're on Skype.
Right. The idea is, like, I know there's some local people that we can get in, some local friend musicians or characters,
even
or whatever.
family,
even family. You know. And then I've got some friends down in Austin who I've contacted, who said, yeah, hell yeah. My buddy Aaron, who I worked with like 20 years ago, is a daredevil, and he lights himself on fire, and he has all these, like,
you mentioned that the other day so casually. I was
he's
just
had
like, oh yeah, by the way, my friend lights himself on fire.
Yeah, he's had
I think I want to meet that guy.
Brian Posehn, the comedian, the metal comedian guy. He's had him light him on fire, I believe. And Randy Blythe from Lamb of God, I think, lit him on fire. So he's got a bunch of great stories. And we worked at the Black Cat Lounge in Austin together many, many years ago. He's a good guy. So we're hoping to get him on. He did agree to do it. We got to figure the timing out on that. So then there's a couple other people I'm hoping to get a couple of the guys from Rigor Mortis and Gwar. Casey Orr is in Gwar and in Rigor Mortis, and then Bruce Corbett I'm hoping to get from Rigor Mortis and War Beast. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and there was some people you wanted to bring on as well, Ross?
I was going to try to bring some cats from Marin. A good friend of mine, Tommy Odetta, who I grew up with for a long time, and he's really making his way in the scene nowadays.
What does he play?
He's a lead guitarist. He's been playing for bands such as Big Brother and the Holding Company, which is a fun band.
That's pretty fucking mega.
Didn't they play at Woodstock, Big Brother and the Holding Company?
They did, I believe so, with Janis Joplin.
Yeah, I mean, that was Janis Joplin's band.
That was her, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's playing with them is a big deal.
Right.
Absolutely.
That's like, I'm touring with the Allman Brothers.
Yeah, exactly.
Do what now?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
right.
although they finally hung up their axes supposedly for good now. They finally called it a day, I believe, and now Derek Trucks is doing a project with his wife, as far as I know.
Susan Tedeschi.
Susan Tedeschi.
Yes.
So let me ask,
I think the project's just called Tedeschi Trucks.
Yes.
I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
This is your field.
Okay. That's Ross's wheelhouse for sure.
Yeah. So Derek Trucks, is he like the son of one of the Allman Brothers, or?
I thought he was the son of
Greg Allman.
No,
Butch Trucks.
Butch Trucks.
He's not.
But he's actually his nephew. And Butch Trucks is a great drummer. Was a great drummer. Rest in peace, Butch.
Yeah, he was one of the first that we lost this year.
Yes.
I mean, we talked a lot last week about celebrity deaths, but the hits just keep on coming.
Exactly.
Yeah,
they do.
We've lost a few this year as well.
You know who we forgot about last year was I Want Your Sex.
George Michael.
George Michael.
Was that last year or this year?
The Bathroom Hustler.
I thought that was earlier this year for some reason.
It may have been. I don't think it was. I think it was last year. I think it was. I could be wrong. Check it out on Google.
Yeah, talk amongst yourselves.
But George Michael, like, actually, he was all right to me, and especially because he made fun of himself in that video.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know what video it was, but it had all the urinals.
Yeah,
because he liked hanging out in the bathroom and doing what some people like to do.
Gotta have faith.
Yeah. I want your sex.
Well, yeah, you called it. Apparently, he died on Christmas.
Yes, that's right.
Oh, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's weird. I guess just because I
got one right. Ding ding
Ding ding.
I think maybe because it still comes up so like conversationally, it still seems to be popping up periodically that I thought it was more recent than it was. I know on the Grammys that, it got mentioned a lot because Adele, I guess, did a cover of one of his songs and screwed it, like couldn't hear or made a mistake or something and stopped and made them start it over.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. There's audio of it online.
Oh,
but
wow.
Yeah, so,
I heard that Metallica and Lady Gaga at the Grammys. I didn't watch the Grammys because I give a shit.
Same
But,
here.
Yeah, we're on that. boat.
But you can't. People were talking about it like
There was some sort of
like it was important. So,
right,
so I
stage
did hear about it. Well, there was a couple. The person who introduced them mentioned their Grammys or their Grammy nominations or whatever, but then introduced Lady Gaga and did not introduce Metallica.
Oh.
Wow.
And then apparently, like I said, I haven't heard it, didn't watch it. This is all secondhand information. So if I'm incorrect about this stuff, not my fault. That means the sources I heard it from were incorrect.
Our incorrect list is growing.
But the second snafu apparently was when
I thought a mic went out or
James
something,
Hetfield was supposed to start singing, his mic wasn't working.
Right.
And so yeah, I guess that was the tech. There was a personal snafu where the person forgot to introduce them, and then his mic didn't work to add insult to injury. And the one theory that I haven't heard anybody float out is that I wonder if when the person introduced Metallica or introduced Lady Gaga and forgot to introduce Metallica, if some producer didn't panic thinking that Hetfield might address it or flip out or get angry if he didn't just drop his mic just to make sure that nothing inappropriate was said,
right.
like a what the fuck on live TV,
Right.
And you know what I mean? It just seemed really coincidental to me that a situation where an error took place that might piss you off, and then coincidentally you would have had no way to express that because your mic happened to not be working.
Right.
Exactly.
That just, to me, that sounded like a producer panicking in the background.
You gotta think though, like the fucking Grammys talk about a logistics fucking nightmare.
Oh, yeah.
Trying to align everything up and have no fuck ups.
Well,
and if there are fuck ups, how do you recover from those fuck ups?
Right. Well, and they've got everything timed down to the minute too. So like something like them stopping or Adele stopping and restarting that song does throw their schedule off by like 40 seconds or however long it took.
I mean, there's always going to be snafus. I don't know how many times I've played and like my bass is cut out or something. What would
be a live show without one?
Well, with the things like Super Bowl performances or the Mariah Carey thing on New Year's Eve, a lot of people said, why didn't they just stop and have her start the song over? They can, man. That song or that show literally has to be timed to the second because it's timed to the ball drop, which is a 10-second countdown. It's not to the minute. That thing has to be timed to the second. There's no do-overs there. No. They spend a lot of money and organize the logistics. So
I would have been so pissed about that. If something happened,
if you were Mariah Carey, or if you were
if I was Mariah Carey,
I'm pretty sure she was. From what I gather, she wasn't stoked.
Like, what was the issue anyway? Was it her backing tracks played the wrong song or something like that?
She was lip syncing, right?
Right, and I guess her earpiece went out, so she couldn't hear. She couldn't monitor herself and couldn't tell where it was in the song. And in spaces that big, the way the sound reverberates, you can't. That's why so many people screw up the Star Spangled Banner before sporting events.
Strangled Banner.
The Star Strangled Banner, because the way the sound reflects back at them, they're hearing things off by like a second or half a second. It just screws up your timing.
In my opinion, if you're going to be lip syncing and faking it to begin with, you might as well go for it. You might as well at least try to fake it. Unless you're that off.
Well, I feel
was she that off?
I don't know. I didn't see it, but I do feel like you're a performer. You're performing. You got to do your stuff. You can't lip sync to a fucking track.
But you shouldn't be upset with the last part if you're lip syncing and it fucks up for you.
But a lot of that is just it's not even up to them because of the timing thing, and we're spending like the Super Bowl
I get
halftime
it.
show.
Can you feel good after the show if you lip sync that?
It's just bullshit.
Well, supposedly a lot of people don't. They sing over themselves. They have a backing track to accommodate for any
So they
slip-ups
still
or
get a
fuck-ups,
slight
but they
live
do.
feel.
They do right. But they do supposedly sing over it.
Right.
And in that Mariah Carey audio, you can hear that, like the track that was playing were certain notes that you might be difficult to hit, and then background singers and stuff like that. It wasn't. She would have been singing live as well.
Have you ever been, Ross, been playing live and been fucked up or not hearing the song properly, and you're playing something completely different than what else is going on?
Absolutely.
I mean, that's happened to me before where I'm like, I had the guitar player lean over to me and say, "What song are you playing?"
I mean, that's part of it, but at least you can say you're not faking it. You're not just, putting your fingers on that, guitar and...
I was playing a show, singing for a band. This is when I was really young.
What was the name of the band?
The Crooks, I believe, was the name of that short-lived
Punk
project.
rock band?
Yeah. And I was hammered. And they started playing the song, and I started singing the lyrics, and the band stopped, and the guitarist came up, wrong song. Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. So they're 1, 2, 3, start over again. They start playing. Wrong song. I started singing the wrong song again. They stopped again. Third time I finally got it.
Oh,
There
wow.
you go. 3 times the charm. Apparently.
I had only at that point been in the band for 2 weeks, and we had barely rehearsed at all. They had had a singer for a long time, so they were real comfortable playing with each other, so they weren't that concerned about rehearsal, so we just didn't do much.
Right.
And I was also completely intoxicated.
Oh, yes.
So, yeah, I was hammered.
Everyone's been there, live on stage with the boys, had a few to drink.
I one time I was playing a show with this band.
Probably goes without saying that was the last show I played with them. Anyway,
Was it really?
Yeah,
Tour was
it
canceled.
absolutely was. That was it. They were done with my fuck up ass.
I when I was playing, we were playing a lot of shows down in Austin, and we always had good crowds and stuff. And I would get drunk. And one time I took we had these girls that called the Satan's cheerleaders, who were these girls who dressed up in latex, cheerleader outfits with 666 on the front, and they would dance. And they've danced for Rob Zombie and Motley Crue and stuff, but they were technically officially with our band, the Flame Trick Subs. So they would dance and
What was the name of the band?
The Flame Trick Subs. They're still together.
Oh, okay, cool.
Anyway, so one time I was just feeling crazy. I took my pants off on stage, and the cheerleaders were all hooting and hollering and everything. And then after the show,
You realized you weren't wearing underwear.
no,
God.
I took everything down. I went down,
Just dropping trout.
dropping trout, and
G.G. Allen.
I don't know why I did that. It was just like rock and roll. I'm gonna get naked, But the singer came up to me after the show. He was pissed. He was like, "We are not that kind of band. We don't do that." And I'm in the corner like a little puppy, like, I'm sorry.
Oh, you didn't just tell them where we are now?
Yeah. Welcome to the new era. Well, at least it wasn't G.G. Allen and flinging shit across the stage.
Right.
You haven't had any of those moments.
No, I don't think we've been there.
There's been some blood, some puke, but
That's rock and roll, man.
that's rock and roll.
But I mean, then there's also the, like you said, like cables going out, or you can't 100% plan for everything. And that's why at those event type things where they have spent so much money, they do kind of not really give them a choice. You're going to play over a track because this has to look as flawless as we can make it. We're not rolling the dice on, something going sideways.
Absolutely.
And I think in a lot of those cases, if you said, no, I'm not doing it, they would say, fine, somebody else will.
Yeah.
So.
I've had,
and you could tell. I mean, you can tell Mariah Carey was going to sing because when she started complaining about it, her mic was hot.
Right.
So you know what I mean. It's not like she was just gonna karaoke over it, or rather lip sync over it. She was going to karaoke over it,
Right.
and do like at least sing the song.
well, the show must go on.
Right.
The show
Well,
must
apparently,
go on.
apparently not, because it did not.
Oh, it didn't.
Yeah. No, she did not finish that song. She just started.
She walked
started.
out.
Yeah.
She
She started
walked out.
complaining about it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's how you can tell she was going to sing because her mic was hot and she was very verbal about
That's
her displeasure.
so awkward. Awkward.
How
And
about
I'm-
Milli Vanilli?
Oh, Jesus.
That's a great story right there.
Yeah, that's kind of where it all started, I think, was, at least from what I remember, was Milli Vanilli.
Oh,
Blame it on. Oh, okay. All right.
Is
so
it time? Is it break time?
yes, it is time for us to take a little tilt break. We're gonna take a little pause,
Do some shots.
Change the vibe. Well, let's just say we're just going to change the vibe
Change
a little
the vibe.
bit. So we're going to take our little tilt break, and we'll be right back, people. And we're back.
Back in black from the break. We had to have a quick break. It's mandatory.
Yeah, that
OSHA rules. No, not OSHA. Union rules.
union
Union
rules. That's right.
10.
Yeah, we
Come
have
on.
to have a break every 30 minutes.
Every
or-
30
Every
minutes.
30 minutes.
God, can we work
Smoke
that
break
out?
every 30 minutes. Mandatory vodka shots.
Going out for a dart.
A dart. I'm going out for a dart, eh?
For square.
A square.
Yeah,
Coffin nail.
That's what squares? That's prison lingo.
That
right?
is prison
That's-
lingo.
Let me get a square, dog.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that'll cost you. You got to drop some soap in the shower for that, buddy.
Oh, no.
All right,
All
so
right.
I actually wanted to talk to you, Army, about a little something that you brought up. It's actually been a few weeks now, and we've avoided talking about it.
Yeah.
But you had a close encounter, I believe.
did. I had a close encounter. It was okay. So
Yeah, I mean, I literally, as soon as you said that, I was just like, "Shut up! We're not
Don't
going
tell
to
me.
talk about this
Save it
until
for the
we're in
show.
front of Mike." So I have zero information. But did you even know about this?
I did.
Oh, you
briefly.
have you
I have not
discussed
heard
it?
the story, yes.
Okay,
No.
all right, cool.
Oh, really? You guys haven't heard it?
No.
I thought I
No.
told both of you. Oh,
You
okay.
just told me you saw a UFO, and I went, silence, do not speak anymore, and not until there's microphones here.
Right.
I wanted this documented.
Okay,
for
so
real,
me, before I tell you the story of that, let me preface it with I watched a show on Netflix a couple nights ago called Curse of the Man Who Sees UFOs. And he's down in Monterey.
What a horribly kludgy title.
It is.
Curse of the Man Who Sees UFOs occasionally, and people make fun of him for it, so it's made his life hard. Jesus, what? I mean...
And he's an eccentrical guy. And he lives in Monterey, and he's been filming UFOs over Monterey and Pacific Grove, which is proximity wise very close to us. It's like 30 minutes away. What is it, like 40 miles or something to Monterey? 30 miles.
And we're in Santa Cruz.
We're in Santa Cruz. So anyway, I watched this video,
which is way better than Monterey. Fuck Monterey. Santa Cruz rules. No, I'm totally kidding.
831.
I'm just kidding. Monterey's great. I love Monterey.
Yeah. Anyway, so there's this eccentric guy who does he's an old punk rock guy, does music and art, and he's kind of out there a little bit.
You don't say.
Yeah.
You don't say.
But he's videotaped all these UFOs of lights in the sky, of all these UFOs triangulating in different places, and he brings in a documentary film crew, and they follow him around, and the documentary guys are like, I don't know, and then towards the end they're like,
At any point, did they ever just clean his camera lens and go,
Right.
dude, it was just reflections. Quit spitting on your fucking camera.
It was a piece of rice, man.
Weirdo.
Anyway, so apparently, according to him and his theories, it's a hot spot over there for UFOs. I don't know if it's because of the naval base or what, but apparently there's tons and tons of footage, years of footage of him documenting UFOs. And so I'm driving home from work. It's a Friday night or Thursday night, and I'm going down Scotts Valley Drive, about to hit Mount Herman in Scotts Valley, and I look up at the sky, which I thought was like a street light or something at first. It was a big, bright, sort of yellow light in the sky, and I look up, and it's probably about 3/4 of a mile up, maybe a mile up, maybe not, probably not, but 3/4 of a mile up. And it was the size of I would say 2 to 3 two-story houses.
Wow.
As far as bulk, you know what I mean? And it kind of had the shape of when you see the ships in Star Wars, they're this big, slow, bulky
Are you
moving
telling
thing.
me you saw a TIE Fighter, Chris?
And it wasn't
Army.
a TIE
It was
fighter.
a
It
battle.
wasn't an X-Wing. No.
Was it the Death Star?
It was not the Death Star.
That's
but it
no
was,
moon.
The interesting thing I'm like, okay. And in my mind, I'm ticking off. It's not a reflection on my windshield. It's not a street light. It could be a drone. If it is a drone, it's fucking huge.
Was this a flash, or did it stay there?
it was moving slowly. So it was like almost directly over, well, not directly overhead. It was like 45 degrees out my window. So
Would you say roughly the speed of what a blimp moves?
No, and it wasn't a blimp either.
Was it fast enough to travel light years from another planet?
I don't know.
Well, I mean, did it appear to be
It didn't look
moving at the speed of light?
No. It
Because
wasn't moving
an
fast
alien
at all.
spacecraft would have needed to be fast enough to actually
Get
move
here.
at the speed of light,
Right.
which, as far as the physicists that I'm aware of, have determined that that's impossible. But anyway,
It was going slow. What appeared slow to me. I could see it just kind of moseying along. But the weird
so
thing
this
was,
is an alien race that lives to be millions and millions and millions of years old.
maybe.
Well, to make that journey, you would have to.
Because of the rate of transportation?
Because of the proximity of Earth to any other.
But then we're not even
habitable
talking
system.
about interdimensional like time holes, wormholes, loops.
Do you know how crowded
that they could get
Earth
through?
would be if time travel were possible? Because there would be as many people who would have ever been born from the time travel was created forward, traveling through infinitesimal periods in time, everything would just fill up.
Maybe.
That's I've
My
heard,
brain's about to explode.
I've heard the theories that there are time tourists among us now. We just don't know that they're from the future, or they would all have to be from the future because time travel doesn't exist yet.
Let me finish.
So you could never
let's-
travel. Could you travel through time past the point when time travel existed? Like, could you go to the Paleolithic era? Or could you only travel to the moment when it
Would
was
you
created?
want to meet a bunch of angry dinosaurs?
That I feel like there would be tour groups. You know what I mean? Like the same way they have tour groups where they gather a bunch of people together. Oh, okay, and those are that's a pterodactyl.
I think
But anyways, we digress.
I think our perception of time travel, if there is time travel, is nothing close to what time travel really is. If you put a label on it, you know. Because our perception is we only have one way to view it, you know, like what we've been seeing in movies and media or whatever, you know, like we only have one idea of what time travel is. We don't really know
I mean,
if it's at all possible, even that, you know.
right, and
every stoner thinks they're a time traveler once they're done with their bomb.
And maybe we're time traveling right now.
we could be.
well, I definitely can say I can travel into the future.
We're in the future.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I just did it right now.
Unfortunately, I can only do it 1 second at a time, but I'm working out the kinks on it.
Yeah.
Sure.
So yeah, as soon as I can up the speed, up the pace a little bit, we're golden. Traveling back in time, haven't really figured that one out yet, but I'm working on it.
My point of view is, why would you travel through time if you just want to embrace the moment you're living in right now?
That's true.
You know?
But how cool would it be, like, if I was going to go back, and we're getting way off subject, but if I was going to go back...
Oh, that's rare. Yeah, that never happens.
That's kind of the point of the show.
I was about to say that didn't lead to a podcast. It's the fact that we get way off track really quick.
The good thing is we do have a tendency to loop, so...
I have gone back and listened to the last time we recorded, and there were so many things that we brought up that went off on a tangent. We never went back to it. There's
Spider legs.
and that I mean that really is, it's the roots of the tree.
Right.
You know what I mean? That is literally the nature of what we're doing right now.
Absolutely.
That's, you know, we're gonna ramble, folks.
It's like pouring beer from a mug, you know. It just, where it goes. It just falls out.
Do what now?
That's my analogy,
Are
and
you
I'm
wasting my
sticking
beer
to
now?
it.
Wow. I am so glad
I'm going
we
deep,
I'm
man.
so glad we took that break.
It's
because
fucking deep.
because that made zero sense.
It
to me.
made sense to me.
Say that. Yeah, exactly.
So
And
what I'm
would-
saying is,
I
if
would
you
like-
pour beer from a
let's-
mug,
Wait, we're taking a right turn. Yeah, exactly. You took the turn with me. Excellent.
Try to follow
Explain the
if
analogy.
you're pouring
please.
beer from a mug, it's chaotic. You don't know where it's going to go. It just goes wherever it goes. Like you said, like tree roots. Tree roots go where the water is or whatever, so it's all different directions.
My main question in this
chaotic.
analogy is, why are you pouring out beer?
Yeah.
Well, exactly. I mean, is this
It
one
all
for your?
depends on the bartender. man.
Is this one for your homies? Or I mean,
Well,
why are you doing?
Wow.
It is one for my
the
homies.
homies.
So the UFO was traveling
and I also,
over Scotts Valley
I disagree really quick though. When you pour something out, you can absolutely control where it goes and the direction of it, and
Well, one of your...
That's just semantics, man.
It's just...
That's a big word.
That's a big word. But anyways, we digress. Chris,
right.
please.
So we're in Scotts Valley. There's a TIE fighter hovering over the Mount Herman Road.
Yeah.
It's a trap.
I got a hologram of Princess Leia popped up in my dashboard.
You're my
Save
only
us,
hope.
Chris. Save us.
So anyway, it's moving.
Help me, Army. You're my only hope.
Shut
Help
the
me,
fuck
Army.
up.
You're my... Okay, the most nonsensical thing ever said on a podcast. Shut up. That's a moment of silence.
All right, we're going. Okay, Army, drop some knowledge on us.
It's moving at a very slow pace across the sky. It is all I see. I wonder to myself, could this be a spaceship? And then, I'm thinking, So I'm driving down. I'm like, okay, I'm following it for like 3 blocks. At the end of the 3rd block, there's a gas station. I'm like, okay, I'm going to stop. I'm going to hop out of the car. I'm going to take some video so I can see it. But in the 3 blocks that I'm going, and I go through all 2 lights, it's gone. It's over the Santa Cruz mountain range.
Well, the theory on that is that the aliens have developed a technology that can actually sense when video is being captured from them. Mm-hmm. And so when somebody...
Now, how do you know that?
Because there's the... there's the...
I think we just made a breakthrough.
The big question has always been, now that everybody's got a high-res camera in their pocket for photos and video, the big thing back in the day was I saw it, you had to kind of take somebody's word for it, because they wouldn't have had anything other than oral tradition to use to document that case. The question that I've heard posed is, everybody's got a movie studio in their pocket right now. Why isn't the internet just flooded with videos of these UFOs?
It is. Well, it is flooded with videos. If you go and you Google it, you will be blown away. There's thousands of UFO videos. What percentage of those are legit?
Well,
I don't know.
I was about to say, where are all those? Those are on those people's YouTube channels,
right?
That haven't been picked up by any other sources. They're the only ones broadcasting it. I'm pretty sure.
Well, see, it's funny you say that.
It would be sort of breaking news if there was legitimized video of UFOs on there, and I'm pretty sure. Okay, between Fox, CNN, and MSNBC, one of them would at least jump on it a little.
I don't think they give a shit. I don't think that's news for them.
No, not at all.
I think because most of it's so easily debunkable, But the thing is,
or is it debunkable, or is it the fact that people are like?
Well, it is kind of it's
like talking to a stranger on the bus.
It's the nature of the easy answer that makes life more exciting. Because those two things humans are always going to gravitate to. Right. You're always, anything that makes life seem a little more interesting or surreal, you're going to gravitate towards that. And the easy answer is definitely the path that we're always all going to take. For example, poltergeists or ghosts. I used to work with somebody who explained... Are you
talking about the movies or the phenomenon?
No, the phenomenon.
Okay.
The phenomenon. I used to work with somebody, and she was explaining to me how there was this situation where this door in her house slammed closed. I mean, it didn't just slowly creak. It like slammed closed, and then they kind of dismissed it, and then it happened again where it slammed closed, and periodically it would happen. And, she didn't go down the list of possibilities where, maybe the house is on a strange angle, and if a truck drives by or something, it creates a vibration with these loose hinges on the door that
or a
wind
wind suction or something.
Yeah, I'm sorry. After the door slams closed twice, you keep opening the same door.
Well, even if it's
supposed to,
like if it's a door to the laundry room or whatever, and of course you've got to do laundry, so you're gonna keep using the door. But so that I didn't have a problem with that. The fact that her door was periodically open, that I have open doors in my house as well. The fact that it slammed shut a few times, and so rather than going, maybe we should get a construction guy out, a contractor out here with the level to make sure everything's that there was a roadway or maybe a fault line under. There's all these potential explanations for why this happened. Her instinct immediately was just, it's a ghost. You know what I mean?
I think that's more jumping to conclusions.
So like with unidentified flying objects, I've I've had things where I saw something weird out of the corner of my eye, and
It's the grays,
like a
man.
light or something like
grays.
that. And I went, oh wait, there's a drop of water on my eyelash that the light's reflecting off of, or you know what I mean, or there's a spot
Something
on the
explainable.
there's a spot on the window that the light hit, and it made this weird flash when I turned my eye.
Right.
But a lot of people, they're just gonna saw a light in the sky, UFO.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's
Right. And I may be one of those people, but I will say
the thing about that is, though, that like with the ghosts and the poltergeist thing, there's an underlying reason people go to that. For them, that's also edification that there's life after death,
right,
which is comforting to a lot of people.
Good point.
With UFO phenomenon, it's proof that we are not alone, and that this is not just an accident of
there's
evolution.
There's some sort of meaning somewhere,
right? And that there's more to life in the universe than just what we're experiencing now. So it makes life more interesting,
right.
you know?
Do you ever wonder, like, at some point, will we ever really find out, like, the truth behind any of that stuff we're talking about, like life after death, or are ghosts
What
real?
says we hasn't? Been,
Well, maybe we have,
how do you prove it?
Consciously, like, you know,
It's
everybody's
not none of those things are accepted by mainstream science.
Right. Well, how are you going to die and then come back and say, hey, this is what it's like? How
But
you gonna prove
people
it?
apparently have. You can't prove it. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's like religion, which we said we weren't going to talk about, is a faith thing. Like, I believe it because of whatever is inside of me and all the determining factors I put together in my head made this legitimate. You know what I mean? Like, maybe it's not legitimate, but your head made it legitimate. You know what I mean?
Well, in recent years, though, we've also learned that there's a chemical in your brain that when you die, it's supposedly at the moment of birth and the moment of death, your
That's the
brain's
DMT
flooded
molecule.
it's
Yes.
flooded with DMT, which induces these insane hallucinations, which, in my opinion, could be used to explain if somebody's having a near-death experience where basically for a moment they were dead and their brain was flooded with this hallucinogenic chemical, that perhaps that could explain the sort of afterlife-ish experience, which people are always like, you know, the people who have experienced this, they all have this, they all have the same story, they all have very similar experiences. That's proof to me that it's real.
Right.
Well, I know everybody I know who has taken LSD has also had similar experience where they had visual and auditory. People who have done nitrous oxide have similar experiences. I'm saying your brain does produce a drug at the moment of death. So maybe if that's how your brain reacts to that could be an
explanation.
The break was more successful than I thought it was.
But here's
that could be an explanation for the similar experiences, is that certain substances your brain reacts in certain ways. When people do cocaine, they talk faster and are more energetic. That's how your body reacts to that chemical.
Absolutely.
So
to play the devil's advocate like that, I agree with you. That is definitely a plausible reason why people would, you know, see similar things in near-death experiences.
And before we knew about DMT, they were looking for another explanation.
Right. But to play the devil's advocate, maybe it isn't. Maybe that's the portal or the next.
But the way science works is you don't have to prove.
But that's an unexplored science. You know what I mean?
What happens when you die in the act, that is absolutely explored.
Welcome
and
to
that's
the Twilight Zone.
That's been explored by science before
but
it was
not
called science. That's probably, aside from prostitution, that might be the oldest thing, is what happens when you die.
Finish him. Take down. Fight. Okay, I get your point.
But yeah, I mean, and obviously you go by the information that you have at hand.
Well, that's the thing. You can only make an assessment.
The reason we say God bless you is when people sneeze is because
they thought they had demons in them.
They thought, and that they were entering through their nose.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, they thought that was a sort of an entry point because when you were sneezing, you were sick, And since that's obviously going to have something to do with God or the devil, because that's all you know at that point is religion, that it must be the demons trying to get into you through your
Right.
nose, because the next day you were feverish and unwell, almost appearing to be possessed. You're shivering.
Mhm.
So
Wide-eyed.
when you started sneezing, it was clearly because that's when the demons came in you and made you ill. Now we know about germs and virus and bacteria.
Well, it's like the Greek gods.
So the
You know,
the theories have changed on what makes things happen.
people used to think that the Greek gods were completely real.
Mhm.
You know, obviously it's all relative.
Are you saying they're not?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to tell you. I'm sorry to be
I
the
am
one
Ross,
to tell you.
son of Zeus.
Damn, I had a vacation planned for Mount Olympus,
Right.
and I had tickets booked.
You saw my dad?
Man, if I don't go see Apollo,
I was going to go see
bullshit.
Medusa.
This is bullshit. Well, chances are Hades is more likely where I'd end up. But
well.
anyway, I digress.
We wouldn't be
Well,
here if
they
that
just-
wasn't the case.
No, I think.
Right, but your point was that there were natural phenomenon that.
So I'm saying
the scientific evidence wasn't there to explain it, so they went based what they came up with was more based on what they had experienced.
exactly. And so by that rationale, wouldn't that apply to us today? You know what I mean? Like, we're only making an assessment on what we know. Of course, yeah, it's been thousands of years and we've evolved differently, and there is way more information and way more technology.
Well,
but
here-
it still could be something that we don't think it is.
Right.
Well, it almost assuredly is. But okay, if I'm in ancient Greece and I see
I don't want to picture you in a television.
like you don't constantly liar. If you see somebody carrying a torch, you're seeing in the dark, you're seeing a light move from point A to point B, and now you see a big light in the sky. Okay, so you're assuming that, well, that's just got to be fire moving from point A to point B, but you know, my friends can't do that. That's one of the gods carrying a torch there, and then that evolves into the glowing fire, and now you've got Apollo to explain the sun, and then down the road we get telescopes, and we can map stars, and we can see not just our sun but multiple stars in the distance. So that changed. We know what's going on out there now. That's also been the case with supernatural phenomena and UFO phenomena. Like I said, the thing about the DMT, that explains a lot about the near-death experience, which doesn't necessarily completely discredit
It doesn't discredit
the afterlife experiences, but it does it provides an alternate.
Let me ask you this: what do you think happens when you die? What do you think happens?
I think it's the light switch.
But it's just that's done. That's it.
Yeah.
Ross, what about you? What do you think?
I believe about the same as that, but I
Really?
feel like, I feel like if you die, I feel like you have a choice to what you feel like in the afterlife. Do you want that light switch to go off, or do you want to be at some other realm? Do you want to be on the higher... For me, when I die, I hope I'm jamming with David Bowie and the Boys and Lemmy, and that's what I kind of hope. But I somewhat do believe that there is a light switch. Either it turns off and on, or you reincarnate it into something else.
So you're more of a sort of a...
You kind of move on from, different spiritual realms,
Well, I mean,
We're feeling this realm right now. This is a very physical place we're at right now. You feel everything. You can touch everything. But I believe there's more to that.
You can smell this pantyhose pop stopper.
Well, I mean, one thing science has shown is that matter cannot be created or destroyed. It
Energy.
can only change form,
Yeah.
and our brains do produce an electrical current that can be recorded, that can be documented. So it is true from my position that when that switch goes off, you cannot destroy matter. So that
energy
that
goes
energy
somewhere.
goes somewhere, and might also be used in another being when they're born, another kid. So in that sense, is that reincarnation? Kind of.
But
is that going to
I think-
retain
Well, here's another
any?
question for you.
But is that
What's
going to
the meaning
retain?
of life
Is that
for
going to
you?
retain any piece of me?
Well, that's the
Just
thing.
the fact that they're using some of the current that went through my brain.
Right.
No.
Right. But yeah,
I'm gone.
Again, we don't know what's going to happen. That's what's fascinating.
But that's what I'm saying. The thing
That's
about
the
science.
best part, though.
The thing
You
about
don't
science
know.
is you don't have to prove what isn't. You have to prove what is. You
Right.
can't prove to me unicorns don't exist.
That's true.
You cannot. They might be out there and we just haven't found it.
You're
Prove to
absolutely
me.
right.
I
They
can
may not
prove,
even-
but I can prove to you a horse does exist. I can show you one.
Right.
Right. So you don't in science. You don't have to prove what isn't. You have to prove what is. So, you know,
That is true.
and a lot of people say, well, you can't prove heaven doesn't exist.
But jackalopes are real.
Oh yes, you ever been snipe hunting?
Oh, are you kidding me?
Actually, there is a real jackalope. It was created by a taxidermist, but it is out there, and you can see photos. Look it up on the internet, folks. It's out there.
Yeah, jackalope.
Mhm.
I need a jackalope.
I'll take one. And then, there is a bar in, what was it, Nicasio, called the Rancho Nicasio, and they have a jackalope above the bar, and it's fucking awesome. I mean, it's a little jackrabbit with a...
Yeah, so for people who
if you don't know what a jackalope is, Chris...
it's a
Arnie?
rabbit with horns, with antlers.
Antlers, right. That a taxidermist tacked on to a stuffed rabbit. Yeah, the jackalope.
It's a good joke, Have you ever been jackalope hunting, and you get someone out there and they're
And
looking for hours?
You said snipe hunting.
Snipe hunting, that's also a great
Which I still think there's people today that think that there are
Snipes.
snipes.
See, the joke is you get someone next to a hole in the middle of nowhere and you say, hey, keep looking for the snipe.
Yeah, you got to call snipe. You got to yell snipe, 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 and then you leave them.
And you leave them for hours on end. They're looking for this mythical creature that does not
Yelling
exist.
snipe with a.
Now, see, if this proves anything, it proves that jocks aren't the only assholes in the world. Rednecks are assholes too.
Yeah,
Because that's a redneck prank.
We do
That,
take-
Absolutely.
yeah, absolutely.
Now that's what's fun. We used to do that a lot.
oh, sure. Fuck with your friends. That's the way you do it.
Absolutely.
So anyway, the UFO, I saw it, man. It was there. It was legit. I felt it was legit. From my little perspective that I saw.
But what I was wondering was that did you immediately go UFO? Or
Absolutely.
So you didn't.
Well, no. I take that back.
You didn't
At first,
go.
I thought
we're near an airport in San Jose. We're near naval base in Fort. What is? Is Fort Ord a naval base? Or?
it was. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So I mean.
Army base. It was an army base.
It is Army. Yeah, I knew Fort Ord. I've never really known what its designation was.
Yeah.
We're in a place where, like you said, there are
there's aircraft.
There's drones being used.
Yeah.
We live in a place where companies like Amazon and
Google
places like that they're looking at using drones as potential deliveries. They're looking at using balloons. Facebook is looking at using balloons to broadcast wireless internet.
Is that right?
In places where you just can't get it?
Oh,
I think their primary interest was to broadcast it in like really rural areas, like say in like sub-Saharan Africa, where you just can't run lines.
Right.
You can't just lay a coaxial cable underneath.
Well, now why would you need internet in the Sahara?
Why would you need the internet anywhere? Why would, if anywhere, that's where you'd need it the most.
Right.
A place where
I'm fucking stuck in the Sahara, man.
Dude.
Come get me out. It's fucking hot here.
Oh, I
have no water.
I was thinking more in terms of that in areas where education was very difficult to come by because there's no schools.
Sure.
Or you're in a small village somewhere.
Yeah.
How are you going to if you have minimal interaction with
whether you like it or not
with people from other areas?
Technology is going to be the learning device for future.
Exactly. So if that's where you do need internet, and you do need Wi-Fi, places like that. If there's no way for you to conduct any business because you're so far away, there's
everything is internet.
There's potential e-commerce that So those are, and I think, this is pure speculation. I'm sure it's driven primarily by finance because most things are, but I do believe it was at least marketed as a humanitarian effort to broadcast Wi-Fi into these rural areas to help people who didn't have access to that. Information is the currency of now. That's what's going to move cultures forward now. So those are the places where you really do need internet. We take it for granted because we're in I wouldn't necessarily call this an urban area or a suburban area. It's somewhere in the middle, but we definitely take it, especially being so close to Silicon Valley, we take it for granted how much ease of access we have to the internet and wireless signals and Wi-Fi.
You can get on your idiot phone, look up anything.
Your your brain is in your pocket. You don't need the
Exactly.
one in your head.
Mm-hmm.
You
Which
know?
is so weird to me, and I embrace it. You know, I mean, like a
have
lot of
to.
people. I have a buddy, one of my greatest buddies, who is like, I'm not getting the phone.
Total Luddite, just anti-technology.
Man.
And,
He's not anti-technology at
Okay,
all.
so
but
he's not like
just
the Unabomber or anything.
no,
where it's
he's
just
like, I am
use
not-
technology as evil and
Off the grid.
I'm going to fix this.
He doesn't want to be pinned down by something, and I think fall prey to the trap that we're all in. You know,
I knew when cell phones first became not even the norm, but started to become very common. I knew a lot of people who viewed them as a leash.
Oh,
You
yes,
know, as sort of
absolutely.
a like, so what? So work can just call me even if I'm at the store.
Not only that-
no way, I don't want
I'm
that.
turning my
They
fucking
can track where
BlackBerry
you
off.
are at every moment. They know what you're saying. They
That-
know what your Facebook is. They know.
These weren't even necessarily sort of
Listen to the agreements you're signing,
conspiracy theorist type, you know, Big Brother is watching you type things. These were just people who were like, I don't want to be getting phone calls from my wife while I'm out. You know what I mean? I want to be able to leave and disappear. You know, those and obviously that changed. But there was I knew quite a few people who were
But-
very resistant to cell phones.
Absolutely.
You and
Yes.
I, Chris, were like we're both pretty much the same age, and we grew up in the time when technology was just starting to like really.
Tell me
evolve
about
and
the
get-
before times.
The long ago and the way back. That's Tell us about the long ago and the way back.
But like I love it, man. I think it's awesome. There is definitely the leash part of it, you know. And I look at Facebook way too much, and I feel like it's bullshit. And I'm looking for something I don't even know what I'm looking for. It's horrible.
addictive. It's an
But
addictive thing.
having the ability to like Google something on the fly, anything you want, or watch something, anything.
Man,
you
has
want.
it killed the barroom argument? You know what I mean? Because back in the day, you could go
you're
back and
full of
forth for
shit.
hours.
That is true.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
a lot
you're
of
a
fact
moron.
checkers these
That
days.
didn't happen. Wait, hold on. Give me 1 second. Blah 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 blah. blah. Nope, you're wrong.
Well, I believe the
And
term
that's-
of art-
and the
Yeah,
conversation's
5150 was
Yeah.
not the
They-
cover for the boy with the smoking
Right,
cigarette.
right,
I believe
right.
the term is, why don't you just fucking Google it?
Google it. Yeah, absolutely. That's well. No, I mean that's you. In an argument, it's usually both people stop and start
Exactly,
Googling,
yes.
basically to see who can get the "I'm right"
Yes.
moment first.
Yes.
You know.
Who's going to beat who to the, you're wrong.
I wonder how much damage it's done to the barroom trivia.
Well, I believe the
games that
rules
you-
is, if
no
you're
phones
doing
allowed.
yeah, exactly. There's no
Yeah,
phones
nobody
allowed.
ever cheats. We're an honest species for
Right.
sure. Nobody's ever
I'll
under
just
the
use
table
my
with
Apple
their phone.
iWatch,
That exactly. That's that with.
which personally I never understood. I always thought the iPhone watches were slightly redundant, you know?
Well, yeah.
Well, yeah, but I mean, the generation before us thought that the cell phone was totally redundant. Why
Right.
you have a
It's
phone in your
these
house?
days.
What do you need? What do you need to? I mean, it's cordless. It's not like you. What do you need the phone for? Well, everything.
Yeah, and we don't
Now
even refer
turns out we need it for everything.
Exactly.
now it's just called a landline. It's not even called a phone. It's just like, oh, do you have a landline?
It's called a dinosaur. Who the fuck has a landline?
We remember the days when you used to have to actually circle dial, like on the rotary
The
phones.
rotary phone. Yeah.
Still
yeah,
have one of those
we're
phones,
not
just for fun.
we're
Still
not
have one of
quite
those.
to old enough to where we remember when you would just pick up the phone and talk to the operator and she would connect you manually
Yeah.
with the switchboard.
We're
We're
not
not
that
there
old.
yet. Like a
I can't say I've ever experienced that.
like a character. No, neither have I. I mean,
gonna
this
say,
that's
tell us about the
that's a
before
long.
times.
That's when your phone number was 7.
yeah.
You know, because 6 other people in your neighborhood got a phone before you did. That we were not quite that old.
No.
Connect
But,
me to Betsy. I need
but-
some milk.
But I mean, it's not that far because when I was a kid, I remember seeing comedy routines that Lily Tomlin would do, where she was the operator and she would like have the weird voice and make the snarky comments
Yes.
to the people who
Yeah,
were
yeah.
trying to call each other. So. And she also had a routine where she played a little girl and sat in a
The big
giant
chair.
chair. So that's just sort of to explain the 2 things I referenced about Lily Tomlin's comedy career last week. Those were the 2 things. Those were bits she had that were fairly famous.
Right. And she did the voice of one of the you probably never watched it. I don't know, the Magic School Bus.
Oh, yeah.
Ross is like, yeah, I
Rings
know
a
it.
bell.
That's
Yeah.
90s. That's 90s.
Was it 90s?
Yes,
Oh, wow.
Okay, I thought it was 80s, but I guess it was 90s. She played the teacher, Miss So-and-so, and the kids would all, like, it was all education based. They'd ride the Magic School Bus.
Oh, okay. So this is what kind of a animated Sesame Street
yeah,
type
yeah,
thing?
exactly.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Wasn't George Carlin and Ringo Starr, weren't they both on shows like that, playing like a conductor of some train or something?
I know that.
That's before my time.
Does that
I know that Roger Daltrey did some stuff like that.
really?
Yeah. Because I was.
Wow,
I
that
was,
seems so out of character. Because I've
Roger
always
Daltrey from
the Who. Yeah, the singer for the Who I've always viewed as kind of a badass.
Oh,
You know, I mean, like I mean, the Stones recorded it, but he was street fight man.
Oh yes,
You know what?
absolutely.
I mean, the Who were in that mod culture back in the '60s. Man, they were fighters.
They were.
It was mods versus rockers. You know, there was the
Are
sort
you a
of
mod or a rocker?
there was the sort
I'm
of
a mocker.
the
Where's your
greaser.
Vespa?
There was the greaser Elvis type guys, and then there were the guys who followed like the Kinks and the sort of dandies.
The socias
You
and
know.
the greasers.
Yeah, sort of the time. Well, jocks and punks.
Yeah.
You know, it's sort of the time honored tradition of poor kids
Jets
versus
and the
rich
Sharks.
kids.
There you go.
The weirdest thing to me though about the mods rockers thing was they were all poor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They should have been on the same team.
Well, and then there were like the Teddy Boys. Do you remember the Teddy Boys?
The Teddy
you know,
Boys,
during that whole mod rocker
Yeah,
thing,
the
like,
Teddy-
especially in Britain.
but the Teddy
No,
Boys were mods.
Tell me about the Teddy. I don't know about the Teddy
You-
Boys.
okay.
Tell me about the Teddy Boys.
So
They were mods though. I mean, the Teds were mods essentially, or like sort of a subdivision of mods. They were
Yeah.
the guys who the sort of ska uniform came from the Teds.
yeah,
Okay.
like
You know, the
almost
sort of suit
skinhead.
and tie, well dressed, a dapper hat.
Would you say like English beat kind of? Or...
Right, but if you go back, that was kind of in the '70s, where the sort of the ska quote unquote uniform is Rude Boys.
Rude
They were
Boys.
they were the
Rude
Rude,
Boy.
the
Rude
Rude
Boy.
Boys.
Rude boy.
Yeah, and so you had your Skins and your Rude Boys, and
And the Bumbleclops.
and back then, being a skinhead wasn't a racial thing.
Right.
That came later.
Yeah.
It was working class people. That's where
Gotcha.
the Doc Martens came from.
Did not know that. I thought it was always a racial
those were the
thing.
boots
No.
that you
It
wore
did-
to the factory. Your dad wore to the factory. Were Docs, you know.
Later on, after that,
Braces were to keep your pants up because you were doing manual labor,
Yeah,
bending and standing up. You know, so
So when did these Nazis assholes start picking up on the skinhead shit?
I don't know when it became a nationalist front movement,
that's about that time was when National Front.
but there was a couple of years there where the skinheads were
Yeah, in
not
in the
racist.
late 60s and early 70s, the National Front thing started, I believe, in the mid 70s, and that's sort of when when the Clash put out White Riot, they had seen all these sort of social movements with, I believe, the Jamaican population there, or let's just say Caribbean population there, trying to sort of advance themselves socially, and they were doing work. You know, they were having meetings and doing marches and things like that. And Joe Strummer was like, you know, I know a bunch of people who are like me, you know, these lower class white men and women who are also not getting ahead. Why aren't we more like them? They're motivated, they're forward moving, they're trying to advance themselves. What the hell are we doing?
Yeah.
So he will White Riot, I want to riot, White Riot, a riot of my own. You know, like, why? Let's get on board with what black people in
And I
the
think that
UK
was-
are
Doesn't
doing.
matter.
I think that was lost on a lot of people.
Really? It
Well,
doesn't matter.
that's what I was absolutely going to say, because once National Front started, they started recruiting, and this happened in the United States in the 80s, where these sort of white supremacy groups saw a disenfranchised part of the population and targeted them.
Right.
Those are people who are looking for something, they're in need. We can indoctrinate them into our little cause. That happened in the UK in the 70s because the taxes had gotten so
Right.
high. There was the garbage strikes, where there was, if you see any videos of when the refuse strikes were in the UK, there was just piles of garbage
And that's
taller
one
than
thing-
people on all the way down the rows. And so National Front sort of pulled those people in, and when the Clash put that song out, they heard White Riot, hell yeah, and so they started having all these skinheads show up, these newly recruited racist skinheads showing up at their shows. And the reason that it was the skinheads that ended up being gravitating to that is because, like I said before, it was just about working class. So these were your poorer people who hadn't gone off to secondary school. You know, they had at most what in the U.S. we would consider a high school education, usually less than that. guys who left school at 16-ish to go work in factories because
Right.
everybody was broke, and so they're easy targets. So you saw this. I mean, at that time they weren't really skinheads. They couldn't afford haircuts, so they shaved their heads with clippers. They wore boots because that's what you needed to work in a factory. You wore, the sort of blue jeans were the casual wear of that era, but the work pants.
That's also when Oi was
in
like
the United States. It was Dickies and Ben Davis were sort of the
Right.
and the collared polo because you're going to work,
It's
man.
just-
You
it's
got to look
just-
respectable. You don't wear a t-shirt to
Right.
work. So that was before skinheads. That was just the uniform of
Let me
a
go back to
factory
what I was
worker.
trying to get to the point of. Music for me is not about hate. It's about, doesn't matter who you are, what color you are, what shape you are, what language you speak, where you're from. If you're playing music, it's all the same language, and it brings people together. And the whole point of, they brought the hatred to that whole point of music, which I don't believe it should have been in the first place. I mean, Clash, the last thing they thought of was skinhead activity.
Joe Strummer was a hippie.
Exactly.
He was in a folk band before he was in the Clash.
and I believe it's all...
Acoustic. I mean, his name, believe it or not, his mom and dad's last name wasn't Strummer. He got that name because he played acoustic guitar in a folk band. He was a strummer,
Yeah. And I just don't believe that it should be connected to hate, because I believe if one language in the universe that is true, it's music.
Well, it comes back to the the thing we were talking about, the tree roots. How everything kind of spanglies out to where it flows. So it's the same thing. It's relative with music. You're going to have all these little offshoots of different things that mean something specifically for that particular group of people. That's why you got your your fucking hate groups. But to them, it's not hate. To them, it's like this pride thing, that we're standing up for something. You know what I mean? That's their perspective. From us, we're looking at it like, you guys are fucking assholes.
Well, and I do kind of feel like, because music is so universal, clearly based on, on the movements in the 60s that music could be used to address the concept of love. The coin works on the other side as well.
Right.
Music can be used to address anything.
Right.
There's,
Maybe I'm just this my
Christian.
deep down
That's what
hippie,
that's what
but-
music means to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've never felt more accepted than in a crowd of musician fans, or people that come to see that and to live it, to experience it. And it blows my mind that you can use that for evil as well.
Right.
But that's just human
absolutely.
nature, though,
that's.
you
I
know?
mean,
it is human nature.
It's human nature.
It's kind of what's in you that you're looking to have that brought out the most. And for people who feel angry and disenfranchised or whatever, they may be looking for something that's going to edify their rage,
right?
And make them feel.
And there's nobody to guide them.
Hey.
There's nobody to guide them. So, whatever path they go on, that's where they end up.
Yeah, I mean, music can be conducive to spirituality. Obviously there's Christian music. There's music is truly a universal language. It can speak to all things. There's educational music. There's people like Raffi or whoever who are like children's musicians and are that sort of guiding. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Exactly, yeah.
That's an educational song. Music can. I mean, it really can. It can be used to address any emotion or feeling.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, depending on where you're standing, but
That's why we listen to metal and
in my
punk.
opinion, unfortunately,
Mhm.
music can also be
And I'm not
used
gonna lie.
to address hatred
And I'm
and
not gonna lie, there's
rage
times
and
when I come home
racism.
Yes,
there's
there's times
it's
when I
there.
come home from work, I'm angry, I'm frustrated, and there's nothing more than playing some heavy metal music.
What do you play when you play heavy metal? What do you like to listen to?
I like Metallica. I like like you were talking about earlier. Judas Priest
Yeah,
is a good one.
yeah, I love
It
Judas
really
Priest.
kind of
Well, Rob Zombie.
Oh, Rob Zombie is my man.
Marilyn Manson, we were
Marilyn
talking about
Manson,
earlier.
Yes, the
I know
Dope
you're a
Show.
fan of
I can't
them.
get enough of that one. It's I'm not going to say that music should only be used for good. What
But
can
that
you say
that stuff is good. I think a lot of times, especially with like the subcultures of heavy metal and punk rock, people because of the music can be so aggressive sounding. A lot of people who aren't involved in those cultures assume that the people who are are aggressive and angry.
Right.
And the reality is, for a lot of those people, that's a vent to sort of release those tensions because you don't want that stored up in you.
Well,
because
yeah.
you're
Either you're violent or, what's the word? Non-violent, passive-aggressive.
pacifist.
Pacifist. Either way, the message is you're coming across what you feel. And I think that's more important.
But in my experiences, a lot of like punk rockers and heavy metal fans are...
But they're not
They're
necessarily...
very thoughtful,
Exactly.
quiet, reserved, maybe even overly introspective. You know what I mean?
The disenfranchised, man.
Right.
You're getting
But-
a completely different group of people who are forced to be introspective.
But
You know what
I mean, I've known kids that were into metal that weren't. I
Sure.
wouldn't call them disenfranchised.
Right,
they
right.
were in, grew up in suburban neighborhoods with stable families.
Maybe that's
and
just where I'm
parents
coming from,
that cared about them.
Yeah.
But they were just these sort of thoughtful people who maybe, because of their intelligence level, would see things in the world that would build up this sort of pressure inside them, and that music and the aggressive nature of that music helped them to sort of vent that out.
Yeah.
Those are the people who are oftentimes the least violent. In the punk rock movement, a lot of the violence came from the sort of racist skinhead even if you had a mohawk, if your thoughts were sort of skinhead leaning at the time, those people tended to be very violent. And the people who, based on their assumptions of what punk rock was because of the music and the assumption that those people were angry and violent, they gravitated to it for that. And most of those
Absolutely.
guys were jocks who were basically just these rageaholic, angry, violent assholes and saw punk rock as,
We get to beat people up.
Exactly.
exactly.
We can get away with this.
Yeah, it's discouraged on, my coach will, admonish me if I'm getting in fights every weekend. So, you know what? Fuck the football team. I'm getting a mohawk and I'm going to be a punk rocker, and then I'll get to beat up people whenever I feel like it.
Yeah.
And
I saw so much
that's
of
where
that.
hardcore became that sort of violent thing in the late 80s.
Yeah.
But the people I knew before that couldn't be farther from it.
Man,
Even slam dancing and mosh pits or whatever, it was controlled chaos. It was a way to vent that out.
There's
Right.
rules.
And nobody ever really got hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, except for the occasional accident.
yeah.
If you fell and twisted your ankle. But back in the day, if that happened, somebody reached their hand down and helped you up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and
And then
exactly.
fast
and you know
fast
which
forward
mosh
10
pit
ye-
not to jump into.
Yeah, fast forward 10 years and you've got people literally just punch. I've known
Yeah,
people who got their
punching each
arms
other.
broke and,
Yeah, that's too much.
guys trying to hurt each other. That was after that. The perception permeated the existence of that scene,
Exactly.
and the people who want that, what the general perception for was what they looked for.
Right.
They ended up in it. I think that happens a lot of times with police forces, where you have a police force that the guys are there because they want to serve and protect, and they do want to help their community, and then they get this. Over time, cops have gotten this reputation of, those are just the guys who got bullied in high school who want to be able to get revenge on those are the corrupt guys who want to shake people down and they can, steal money and not
Right.
turn evidence in or whatever. And that was all supposition originally. But once that began to permeate the culture, people who did want to get revenge on their high school bullies and the people who did want to
It's a good
just
outlet.
they're like, if that's what's that's what I'm all about. And apparently, from what I heard, that's what being a cop's all about. And now those are the guys signing up for the police force. And
Right.
pretty soon, the preconceived notion becomes the reality.
Well, have you seen the movie SLC Punks or L?
Not in years. I've seen it.
It's
but
a good. I mean, that's all about that scene where people have just been put down. There's finally that outlet where they can get it out without actually getting sent to jail or like getting in a bar fight. There's that scene, that crowd.
But the thing about that scene is that, that's what it starts as.
But
And then it
it's-
gets seen
and
as
then-
something else.
Exactly.
And the people who, what they are looking for is that misconception. They gravitate towards it, and eventually it becomes the misconception becomes the concept.
You know what's
That's
so great?
that's the problem.
You know what's so great about not being able to, or growing up rather, is like not giving a shit about being associated with some sort of fucking group.
Exactly.
I don't want to be
A clique.
Don't label me. I don't want to be. Yeah, I'm a punk rocker. Yeah, I'm a heavy metal guy. Yeah, I like all kinds of stuff. But please don't put me in your fucking Don't label me.
Yeah.
I don't want to be labeled.
No.
Is that weird? I don't know if that's weird or not.
That's a common perception. I mean, nobody wants to be fucking labeled. Have you met
yeah,
one?
but I feel like
I'm not liberal. I'm not Republican. I'm not whatever. I'm just
You're
who
me.
I am.
You're
know?
you.
Yeah,
Does that
but I
is
feel
that going down the LGBT?
No, I just think
trail?
that's been the case. I mean, that happens every generation, and I think at a certain point in every generation, you look back and realize that's actually kind of bullshit. Like, there's the hipster thing now. Never met one, according to them. I see hipsters everywhere. And if you ask them, they are not hipsters and they hate hipsters or whatever. And,
what are you talking about, bro?
And I remember back in the 80s that, oh, you punk rocker, don't label me in, blah, 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 blah. Dude, you had combat boots and a leather jacket and a flannel shirt tied around your waist, and you had your nose pierced, and don't label me, I'm an individual. Yeah, who was trying to be a punk rocker, whether you would admit it or not. And guys, I'm not just into metal. I like all kinds of music. Yeah, and you've got a Voivod back patch, and your hair's down to your ass, and you're wearing nothing but black, and your British flag T-shirt. Sorry, dude, you're a headbanger.
Right.
Whether you want to call, everybody's a snowflake if they want to be, but you're also gravitating towards something.
Right.
So I feel like every. But the thing about growing up is eventually. You
shed those things.
Yeah, it goes one of two ways. You either stick with the same shit you did in high school and you're listening to the same music you did in high school for the rest of your fucking life.
Exactly.
Or you're open to more things and your tastes grow and change and you're
willing to blossom.
If you're a punk rocker in the South in the 80s, well, you fuck country music and fuck rednecks and blah blah blah, and then
now you love country music.
and you respect the talent of the artist, and Johnny Cash is in your fucking shuffle.
And that's a hard thing to. I could not put myself in a box because I like too much different music.
I think everybody
I like
feels
too
that
much
way,
different music, and when someone's like, "Hey, are you a rocker, or are you a country guy, or are you a funk guy?" I'm all of the above because I enjoy music.
You're a little bit younger than us, so you had the fortunate reality of growing up
with all of it already done,
and I was going to say with access to so much more of it in a time where Army and I had to go out and buy a CD or a cassette or whatever. You only had, you're a teenager. You've only got X amount of money, so you got to pick. Am I going to try this thing that I have no idea what it is, or am I gonna? Okay, I know this band. I know that I like them. I've only got $10. I'm going with what I know.
But maybe it's
just funny you say that because I used to go into the record stores and I would do that exact same thing. I would be like,
"You had to.
Oh, what is this? Oh, a Big Black album. Holy shit! I've never heard of this before. This sounds dope." And then you go home and you listen to it. And
see,
you're like,
I was different. If I saw the Big Black album, I would find somebody I knew that had it and listen to it first, and then because I'm going to go ahead and I'll buy this Black Flag album because I know them, and I've only got $10. But somebody in my crew knows Big Black,
right?
And so I'll check their stuff out, and if I deem it financially worth spending, then now I'm that guy. You had to make choices.
There was no Pandora where you could just listen to it,
or
YouTube
where you could listen to Big Black and Black Flag and Clint Black and Black Dahlia and Black Hole Sun by Soundgarden.
I'm from a younger generation, the Napster generation, right? Where you can just go online, you can find anything for free. But I, slowly realized, or not slowly, but pretty quickly realized that's the end of music right there. Nobody gets credit for what they're getting. No one's getting paid. The most fun part is when you're going to select an album or select an artist is reading that cover or reading that,
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit last week about how
best fucking part and
how different the way we ingest music is.
You don't get that when you download shit online.
No,
it's just like a 2-word. Yeah, this is that song, and this is how many gigahertz that is. It's like.
Yeah, like I said, that was one of the things that we discussed ad nauseum last week was the differences in the way that we ingest.
And I'm
media.
saying, as a younger person, I find more satisfaction out of seeing that record and reading that cover.
Oh, sure.
Well, it's physical.
You get to know the band.
It's a physical thing. It's not
and the lack of that is definitely contributed to the sort of lack of divisiveness among people and this sort of scenes that I mean there used to be everything was clicks.
Exactly.
Whether you're you were into a music scene or not.
Yes.
Even people could give a shit less about music and just listen to whatever was on the radio. We're still very clicky.
Yes.
The sort of homogenized culture of media now has led to a lot less of that. which has made, I feel like people are a lot more open-minded to new things because of that. Because it ain't going to cost you a thing to just click on the link and check it out. Maybe I do like that. And then you find out that, that is garbage, or, wow, I really love this.
Exactly.
And it doesn't fit in with your musical tastes that you had before at all, but you do find out you like it. Whereas beforehand, if it wasn't that easy and that free, you never would have gotten really the chance to experiment with it before.
Yeah, and to me, like, I would buy something, like I said, walk in and buy something based off an album cover, maybe.
Sure,
Or whatever. And then I'd listen to it.
Or magazine articles, because back then magazines were made of paper. And you'd actually go through them and see interviews and articles and go, okay, well, they say they like this band, and that's sort of that. I like that band too, so maybe I'll like what these guys have. You know what I mean? That a lot of it was reading about stuff.
Absolutely.
And there were people in rural or more rural areas who would have access to the magazines, but didn't have the indie record store in their neighborhood or in their town or whatever.
Street Thrasher magazine.
They would see things like interviews with the Stooges back in the early 70s and go, I can't find this. Where can I? What is this? This looks insane. It sounds insane. But they had so they had to sort of build this idea. I'm sure they had this idea in their head of what is that going to sound like.
Exactly.
And everything was so much bigger back then. It seemed like when something musical happened, it seemed a lot bigger to us. You know what I mean? It was like when somebody new pops on the scene now, you're like, okay.
But don't you think that might have a lot to do with the fact that, because of the need to make choices and the fact that you had to sort of pick your team, that anything that happened on that team was a big, any new punk band or if something happened with a punk band that you were a fan of, since you were a punk rocker, that it was important or whatever. But now it's kind of like you don't really have a team, so things happen, things pop up, new bands come up, and oh, cool, that's interesting, but it's not major. It doesn't feel major,
exactly.
Because we're all one big team now. So
growing up, man,
or at least pretending to.
Exactly.
Growing up and hopefully getting better, hopefully improving.
Oh, that's what we all do.
Hopefully, we once only hope.
That's what we strive for.
Yeah, we're all work in progress. But speaking of work in progress, we have a website that is a work in progress. It's AnvilHammerHatchet.com. The first episode that we recorded is up there last week. This episode should be going up really soon. What's the date?
Today's the 18th. I think it's the 18th.
Yes.
So
Sunday, February 19th. So, what day is it, man? But anyway,
we're a little too much fun.
So it should be up on the tubes on Monday.
Probably Monday the 20th. Hopefully, clearly if you're listening to this, it made it up.
And like I said, I'm glad to be here, guys. Thank you for, bringing me in.
It's always been a trio.
We're glad you're here.
It's always been. We've never been a duo. We've always been a trio.
I was bummed I couldn't make it the first time, and this one worked.
But so the website is AnvilHammerHatchet.com. Check it out. We're going to try and get some more content other than just the episodes up there, but the episodes are going to be there. We're going to be doing this once a week. Every Sunday or Monday, look for the post because it'll be up. If you have any questions or if there's a topic you'd like to discuss and hear our fucked up degenerate take on, send us an email at anvilhammerhatchet@gmail.com. We're open to anything. Today was actually really music centric. We didn't really go too far off the rails as far as music and aliens and ghosts and dead people and okay, I guess we did, but we didn't really talk about a whole lot of TV or movies or books or the other media. But we do. I mean, that's a lot of what our conversations end up going towards. So if there's anything you want us to discuss outside of music, send us an email at AnvilHammerHatchet@gmail.com. All of our social media sites there'll be links on the website soon, so you won't have to do a whole lot of searches or figure out, what's the title of the Twitter? What name are they going under on Instagram? We're just going to have links on the site. Keep it easy. One click, you get there, you like, you follow, keep it simple. For now, if you want to follow us on Instagram, it's AnvilHammer_Hatchet. If you follow us on Twitter, it's AHH Podcast. So that's what I mean. There's different social media names. So to keep it simple, we're just going to put the links on the site. We do have a Facebook page that's got links to the show. It's facebook.com/AnvilHammerHatchet. That's a pretty easy one to find. And that's a place where you can get to the audio, but you can also see pictures of our goofy asses, and
you can get to me if you want to talk to me. I can be reached on there. So if you got something you want to
that's
say.
right. So what's your
don't ask
Facebook?
me what the password is, or
I don't want any of that information.
Password.
I just mean if people want to follow you on your personal page, you want to plug your Facebook page,
no, it's fine.
Do you want to plug your Twitter? You got any plugs you want to do?
I don't want to do plugs. If people want to find it, they can check it out. They know where
Ross,
to
you got anything you want to plug? You want to?
Not yet. I'm still working on my addresses right now. I'll let you guys know.
Getting your social media game up.
I'm a slow gamer. But
yeah,
okay.
like I said, the easiest way for us to do that is just going to be to post links on the page. But, if you want to find us, you can find us. If you just Google AnvilHammerHatchet, the website is the first one to come up.
For sure.
So the aggregate for everything is going to be AnvilHammerHatchet.com. And a simple way to contact us right now is just AnvilHammerHatchet@gmail.com. We are getting a Google Voice number set up, so you'll be able to call and leave us voicemails if you want if it's easier for you to just ask us a question instead of typing it up in an email. That's fine too. We're getting a YouTube channel started, so there's going to be video clips, so you can see what our ridiculous asses look like when we record this thing. I'm imagining those are going to be a little funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're getting all that set up. It's been fun.
That's great.
All right, guys.
Hey,
I think
can you
we've had
take us out with Shark,
I think
man?
we've
Take
had.
us out.
Oh, I did want to talk about that real quick. Our theme music is a song called Shark that Chris Army Armstrong is actually the artist who performed that song. I love it. It's a great song. I'm gonna actually include it as a little Easter egg at the end of the show. So stick around after we sign out. Shark's going to play it in its entirety. And hopefully very soon, we're going to post a download link for Shark, an original track by Chris Army Armstrong. It's an awesome song. It's got that desert rock, sort of stoner rock vibe. And I love it. I'm really glad we're able to use that for our theme music. So you stick around after we sign out, and that one's going to be there to listen to in its entirety. Like I said, download link will be up soon. So
good night.
For Ross, Army, and myself, I'm Chris. We're signing out.
Cheers.
And we'll see you guys next week.
Go ahead and let the darkness fall. Go ahead and let the darkness fall. Doesn't seem to bother me at all. Bring on the joy and the pain. Bring on the dark, cold, bloody rain. Yeah. Moving like a shark through the water. Moving like a snake in the grass. Gonna turn up all the levels. Gonna head 'em off at the pass. eyes are staring right through you, vibing off of everything you do. A phoenix gathers up its blazing wings. Let's see just what the darkness brings. Take my hand and let's get hard tonight. Gonna make sure everything's alright. Time to step in heavy rock and roll. Kick back, relax and smoke a bowl.